Ancillary Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Berg, joined by my co-host, Vivian Hudson. How are you, Viv?
I am great, thanks, Mike. And what's our topic today? The burning question.
Well, Viv, I had a revelation came to me last week. As you know, I've been a little lax in my duty here recently. On Friday, I got an impromptu call from a friend of mine Friday afternoon saying, "Hey, you want to come? I got an extra ticket for the San Diego Padres for the home opener." And I thought, I can't do that. I'm working. He says, "Well, don't you own the company? Aren't you the boss?" I said, "Well, yeah." And he started making a lot of sense to me. So, long story short, I ended up going to the Padres game and blew off work Friday afternoon. But I got some. It wasn't a total loss. I got some inspiration for work. So, when I was at the game, at the ball game, after the game, we went to a bar right across the street from the stadium, and there was another couple there who we met who was also at the game, who my friend Bobby, who I went to the game with, was is good friends with, and the real estate agents. And I remember them. I hadn't seen them in years, mind you. I moved to San Diego about 8 years ago, and it was about that time that I probably met them about 7 years ago. And they were the real estate agents that sold Bobby his house. And it was a very modest starter home. But I remember talking to them way back when he got the house, and I thought their story was very interesting. This is a couple. They're from Detroit, which, as you know, it's an impoverished area. They got into real estate very late in the game. I think they were something else with real estate appraisals or something, but they got real estate license, and they just all of a sudden, I'm talking in their late 40s, just up and decided, I'm gonna move to San Diego. We're sick of the weather and we're sick of the blight. We're just gonna move to San Diego. They had been here before on vacation. They loved it. And we're just going to become real estate agents in San Diego. Like the gall, the audacity to break into this market as people with zero connections. They knew nobody, and just starting over again in their late 40s and coming out here. Well, I haven't seen them in years, and I saw them out there, and I remembered them, and I was chit-chatting with them, and Bobby was telling me, he goes, that couple is killing it right now. They are doing very, very well. He's telling me about this beautiful condo they own in downtown San Diego. They own a bunch more that they rent out. They're just moving properties left and right. So I found it very inspiring, though, because I was talking to Art, the husband, about it, and just telling him, I say, "Hey, I heard Bobby said that you guys have really made a go of it here, and that your business has really taken off." And he was telling me some of his secrets. And it's funny because this really is exactly what we've talked about in previous podcasts, Viv. He said, well, when he remembers a couple real estate agents that he had dealt with in the past that were uber successful, and there were some habits that they had in terms of time management, in terms of just doing basic follow-ups with people, and just staying disciplined and managing yourself more than anything. And so when they got here, they said, okay, we're going to stick to a plan. And they laid out certain things that they were going to do that they noticed that those other real estate agents were doing. Number one, they created a CRM so that they kept track of everybody. They knew where Billy is applying for college. They knew when their birthday was. They knew everything they could find out about people. They keep it on a CRM. They would stay in regular contact with those people. They had certain number of cold calls that they were going to make off the real estate agency's cold leads. They had all sorts of things that they were doing, where on Monday we're going to go to this Chamber of Commerce meeting. On Tuesdays we're going to meet, we spread ourselves over here. It doesn't matter what they were doing. The point is that they were doing all these small things, and they didn't look at the big picture. They just knew that if they did the small things, 5 years from now, they're going to be in a much better spot. And so these are people that were probably broke as a joke. I mean, coming from Detroit, that all of a sudden, I'm sure they've built up an incredible amount of income and wealth for themselves in a period of no more than about 6 or 7 years. And so I thought that really got me thinking to our industry, Viv, because we've talked about it before. I know I've told stories about doing this myself. I know you've done it yourself too, where you force yourself to say, okay, well, I want to get to 100 accounts, but how am I going to get there? And breaking that down to daily activities that you could be doing to get yourself to that goal eventually.
Well, certainly your comfort zone definitely lies outside your comfort zone, so to speak. So if you look at what they do, sometimes it's that short-term pain for the long-term gain. And while you know that you're not going to hit a home run every time, it's laying down those foundations to help you to establish your future successes. And the good thing with our game is that we don't have to work weekends.
That's true.
Yeah, yeah. So I think one of the key things that you're saying there is, to me, like I always look at structure is freedom. It's kind of like the irony in it. But if you set yourself up with those strategies for different activities each day or a number of clients that you want to make connections with every day or on a weekly basis, however you do it, then that gives you a lot of freedom. Because at the end of the day, let's say we've got 20 prospects. Well, let's say, how many of those do you think are going to be interested in ancillary services? Maybe 5, maybe 10. What does ProCare say? It's at least 10, right?
Yes.
If we do the percentages. So for every 20 independent practitioners, there's going to be 10 of those that have a potential interest in at least one of the ancillary services that we have, and potentially multiple as well. So at least the good thing for us is that we can sell multiple products. Most people are only in the market to buy one house. So then out of those 10, how many of those are you potentially going to get to the decision maker to have a conversation? So what do you think that might be? 3 or 4?
Easily.
Yeah. So, and then out of those, then how many do you think you're going to convert? 1 or 2, maybe?
Yeah.
So depending obviously on your solutions. So if you set yourself with that key target of 20 contacts to make each day, then your numbers say that you're going to have 1 or 2 potential sales in each one of those. And over the longer term, as you're building and establishing that relationship, because you keep going back there, you've got a higher chance of converting some of the others in time. So it really is a numbers game when you look at it, and just creating that structure and that discipline for yourself, and just moving yourself into a bit of discomfort to make your life more comfortable.
Yeah, and it's also about working smarter too. It's thinking things out and having a good strategy. And we talk about pre-call planning a lot and the importance of doing that. But it may sound a little trite, but it's true. I mean, if you can think of a good strategy for each practice, and that strategy will continue to evolve the more sales calls you make. But when you're visiting a practice, and based on the feedback that they're giving you, you should have a strategy for the next time you're going back of how you're going to approach that next sales call. What are you going to talk to them about? Who are you going to talk to? What is the approach you're going to take? Do I need to maybe get some references to some other doctors in the area? Is that going to convince them? Is maybe there's some more scientific studies? Is that what's going to convince them? Maybe it's something where they're participating in a revenue model. Maybe I need to bring them in a pro forma to show them what that revenue is going to look like to them, and also have a plan for closing the deal the next time you're back. And so as I was talking to the real estate agents, that's really what I had picked up from them, is that they started really logging every activity that they were doing and coming up with an action plan. And so you're right, a good deal of the sales calls you make are going to be a waste, because nothing is, they're not going to bear fruit, but some of them will bear fruit. And when you do find those accounts where they are starting to show some interest, that's when you got to turn all your focus on those accounts, and just think of a good game plan. Look at it like a game of chess. What is the next move here I need to do? And the checkmate in this situation is tons of cash in your pocket. So there's lots of motivation to win.
Yeah, yeah. And especially with some of the programs that we're seeing, some of the revenue flowing through right now, it certainly is a good time to be out there talking it. So it really comes down to plugging in and working on those numbers, and having that CRM system is so important, because I mean, sometimes unless I keep track, I mean, I don't remember perhaps every little lead that came along in my mind. And even chasing up people from 6 months ago or 12 months ago might not have been the right time for them back then. But if you continue to follow up with them, then sooner or later, if they haven't told you a flat out no, there's a pretty good chance that the door's still open for that opportunity. So we're not always in the right place at the right time. For doctors to be receptive to purchasing, but that doesn't mean to say that that's not going to happen in the future. So, and particularly I think if you're passionate about what you do and that comes across in how you speak and build that relationship with the doctor, that it makes you a lot more memorable. So when you do go back, or you could get an Australian accent, or so when you do go back, that the doctor will actually remember you and strike out that rapport. Well, that you hopefully started with.
I'll conclude today with a funny story. If you want to hear a funny yarn, this just popped in my head. I was reminded of one of the first sales jobs I had out of college. Had this guy. He's a former college football player, big bruising guy named Moses. Good guy, but he was very full of it. I could tell he was enamored with himself. He was a sales manager. And he preached a lot of this stuff, but there was a couple guys that came from his old company that said, Moses really wasn't as great of a rep back when he was with his old company as he lets on to be. Well, I had a record-breaking month one month, and there was a new company, so there weren't many records to beat. But I had a record-breaking month where I closed I closed 11 deals, which was amazing to get 11 deals in. And they had a company meeting, and he brought me up, and he says, we have and Mike here just shattered the record. We got 11 deals in, and he better be careful because he's one off from my all-time record. And that's when a couple guys pulled me aside and said, I don't remember Moses doing 12 deals at the old company, but if that's what he says, so be it. Well, fast forward about a year and a half later, I had some other good months, and I had one month where just everything converged. You've had one of those months, I'm sure, Viv, where everything converged, where the stuff that should have closed the month before got held over to the next month, and the stuff that should have closed the following month got, closed early, and I just destroyed my own record, and I closed 16 deals for the month. We has a company meeting and pulls me up, same speech, and he says at the end of it, he says, he better be careful. He closed 16 deals. He's just one off from my all-time record.
So, and so the story continued, right?
So the story continues. So, anyway. But anyway, he did teach me some good things, and these are some of the takeaways that I got from that was just the importance of pre-call planning and following up on your leads and working smart and just being disciplined. And the cool thing about it, Viv, is you get to enjoy your free time when you do this. When you've worked hard and worked smart all week, you get to enjoy that weekend. When you're lazy and sloth and you got a bunch of things up in the air, a bunch of loose ends, that's when you have these stressful weekends where you don't enjoy yourself. So do it for yourself.
Yeah, and that's a great point there, Mike, because, if you haven't put in like 100% effort, then that's when it's always playing in the back of your mind and using those words like I should have done this, or I should have been doing that, or I should be doing something else.
Absolutely.
So having a good work ethic means that when you take time off, you take time off.
You got it.
And I think that that's something that we often blur the lines with in our daily lives now, by not
Absolutely.
working perhaps as smart and allowing too many distractions and sidetracks in.
As my phone rings 10 times while I'm on this podcast. Talk about distractions. Okay, thanks, Viv.
Okay, thanks.
You can jump into